Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, which is blogging for beginners. Another jam-packed afternoon as I go through everything about blogging for beginners. I've got a lot of information to get through, so I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to jump straight into it. But as always, this webinar is brought to you through Business Station and the Australian Federal Government's Digital Solutions Program, which is coming to an end on the 31st of March. This is one of the very last webinars that will be run through the program. So just a bit of webinar housekeeping for those of you that haven't attended one of my webinars before. You'll notice that your microphones are muted, but it is an interactive webinar. So please use the chat feature or the questions to ask any questions. We're going to be covering a lot of ground today. I suggest you have a notepad and paper next to you, though you will get a copy of the recording to be able to watch again. So if you miss anything, you'll have that to refer to. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kerrie. I'm the co-founder of Altitude Business Solutions, and we have been with Business Station and the Digital Solutions program since 2019. It's been an amazing program for us, and we are all around digital education for small business owners. So it was right up our alley. Now, you're in the right place today if you are ready to clear up the confusion about blogging and learn a little bit about what's changed in recent years and how you can get started. Now, as I go through today's presentation, you will notice that my video will turn on and off, and that is just to help with the stability of the webinar and for the recording as well. But if you do have any questions, pop them into the chat or into the question answer feature, and I'll get them answered for you live here today. So it only seems fair if we're going to be talking about blogging that we have a little discussion about the evolution of blogging. Creating and sharing content is one of the fundamental pillars of business these days. Sharing information online, it's all about making sure you're reaching your target audience. And blogging has been around before Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or MySpace. It's hard to believe there was a time before those platforms. But the first blog was actually written in around about 1994. And obviously nowadays blogging has turned into vlogging. You may have heard that term, which is where people are turning their written word into videos as well. But many of today's blogs don't look anything like they did 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. But certainly it has come a long way and is still a really vital part of advertising for small businesses and making sure that you are seen as an expert in your field in the online platform. Now, as I said, the first blog, or Weblog as it was called back then in 1994, you can imagine there's been lots of changes along the way. Blogging, there was the whole mummy blogging phase, which people often talk about, where people just got on, had a few thoughts, and actually typed some things into what they called a bit of an article or a blog, and that was it. It was more about telling people about your thoughts. And blogging has really, I guess, kind of transformed into something a little bit more than that. In 2002, blogs were beginning to prove themselves as a really viable platforms for small businesses and for people who wanted to cement themselves as experts in their field. And that's where we saw a lot of people really starting to move for that. I mean, in 2003, WordPress came on the scene, one of the biggest website builders, and then blogging really, really started. But then in 2005, everything really changed a little bit. YouTube launched then. It's hard to believe that YouTube was only launched in 2005, but it did. And as did, there was a lot of American sites. Huffington Post was one of them that I can remember back from those days. Media companies moved to more online content and started to do reporting articles. So even over here in Australia, you had your news programs like Channel 7. That was primarily a video reporting platform. We're now starting to write articles and posting them as blogs. So it was this written content that became the real central part of being online for a lot of people like you and I. When we were searching for things online, a lot of these articles would come up. So blogging had really cemented itself by that 2005. Now, if we fast forward to just last year, 2022, with the introduction of social media, the online blogging landscape evolved again. Consumers are really looking for relevant, up-to-date information that is straight to the point and clear. There's a lot of information available now on the internet. There's a lot of articles, and if you're not getting straight to the point and being clear, you're going to lose your audience. They're also craving multiple ways to be able to absorb information. I mean, we just saw, particularly in 2022, the rise of platforms such as TikTok. I always say to people, if you can learn something in 30 seconds, why would you watch a 3-hour video on it? So many people have moved to that short form kind of learning experience as opposed to reading an article. Here's what I'll say about that. Blogging and writing a blogging article as such, maybe putting it on your website or what you're going to do, that is the thing that normally gets the consumer to your website in the first place. So from there, if you want to have your blog and have a video embedded within that blog, then that's a really great combination. There are still people out there who are looking for the written word, and at this stage, Google still looks for the written word as well. And while, yes, certainly YouTube videos are very popular, there are a lot of people who still like to read articles, and it is a really successful way in order to drive traffic to your website. There is a few things that you need to do in order to produce the perfect blog. You need a few key elements to make it work, and today we're going to be going through those elements. So we've got here the perfect blog elements, which are relevant content, it's quick to the point, it's conversational, it's visual, video, and audio. So we're going to be talking about and touching on those things today. Version 1 is better than version none. For those of you who don't know Coach Nikki Christensen, he talks about this all the time. A lot of people have the fear, and this is actually the number one reason why people don't blog, is because out of fear of not being able to do it right, or not doing it right, or not having the process down pat, but version 1 is better than version none. If you put something out there, you can always improve on it. You know, when I look back at the very first blogs that me and my sister started writing for our business, I think, oh my goodness, I could really improve that. And I do go back and improve them, and I do go back and change them because I've learned so much more about the written word now. I also have a clear understanding of what people want to read. And, you know, obviously you can go back and you can change your blogs and update them to the current status as well. So whenever you're thinking about whether blogging is something for you, just remember that version 1 is better than version none, and you should just get started straight away. So relevant content is a really big piece of the puzzle in terms of making sure that what you are saying or what you are putting in your blog is actually relevant to the reader. So you want to make sure that you have a few key things in place. Now, blogging was just supposed to be easy. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you just sit down, you rack out a few words, and bang, just like that, we'll have a blog. But it turns out it's not as easy as you thought it was. And that's why you need to have a bit of a structure. And we're going to be going through that structure with you today. The writing part itself is certainly challenging. You know, stringing together some sentences in a compelling manner requires a bit of thought and effort. But what I will say about blogging is that people really enjoy reading blogs that are conversational. And that's one of the pieces that we'll be touching on as well. But it's got to feel like a conversation. It's got to feel like you're talking to the person. You know, they've come to that blog for a particular reason, to find out some information, and you're just having a conversation with them. Exactly like we're having a conversation today. And if it reads like that, then you'll find that your blogs will be very successful. You know, you'll often sit down, have a thought. Just this image here just reminded me, this is exactly what I do before I write a blog. I have a bit of a thought track. I sit down, I don't necessarily have a cup of tea, I might have a glass of wine, but I certainly sit down, have a bit of a thought track about what I'm going to write about and what I'm going to do. One of the hardest parts of blogging is knowing what to blog about and how to actually put that together. And this is especially the case if you're trying to use a blog to build your brand and your business, because you know that whatever you put out there on the internet is a reflection of your business. So this is where a little bit of fear can come in as well. So you want to write about things that actually matter and add value to your readers. And this is where things start to get a little bit tricky. So constantly coming up with new topics and new angles to blog about, but we're going to help you out today. And hopefully the steps and processes that we'll give you will make it a little bit easier. Today, in this presentation, I'm going to go through a few different types of blog posts, because I think a lot of you are experts in your field in whatever it is that you do in your business, but you're just not sure how to string together a blog. And there's a whole heap of different ways that you can present a blog to people. So I like to go through those. There's about 17 of them, different ways. So blog post type number 1, the how-to guide and tutorials. Now, these are some of the simplest yet most effective blog posts that you can actually create. And they serve as a real value that your readers have, real value for your readers. Quite often they're looking to solve a problem when they come across your blog. So you can guide your readers through a step-by-step process, through a particular problem, and actually showing them how that they can do something. Your readers are starting to look to you as an expert in your field, and it's your responsibility to show them exactly how to achieve their goal or to solve their problem. Some examples of this type of blog post here's some titles for you: how to create a blog, how to, or not hot, it's supposed to be how to do more push-ups, how to build a website, how to dress for work, how to build a retaining wall. We all would have come across these, right? We want to know how to do something. We've typed it into Google and we've ended up on a blog which talks about how to dress for work, and we're finding the information. So these are very factual kind of blogs, but we call them the how-to blogs because you're explaining to someone how to do something. It's very simple to follow for your readers, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them to achieve their desired outcome. When writing a how-to blog, it's important that you break things down into smaller steps. The simpler the steps, the easier it is for someone to read. So don't assume that your readers know what they're doing. Remember that they're looking to you for help and guidance, or they're looking for an expert in the field that they've searched. And so you need to be making sure your step-by-step guides really start from the beginning. And also ensure that your tutorial or step-by-step guide is complete as possible, and avoid leaving your readers hanging with 1 or 2 steps left to do. You want to give them the whole entire process. So here is the step-by-step guide that we follow for how to dress for work, or whatever the how-to is. Now, remember, your goal is to make it as easy as possible for somebody who has no knowledge of what you are blogging about. It's very easy to forget what it's like to know nothing about something that you are an expert in your field at. So go right back to basics. The best way that I find when writing a how-to blog is I actually give it to somebody who doesn't know anything about what I'm writing about. And if they can't make sense of it, then I know I haven't done a very good job. Sometimes they'll say, oh, I just need to take a couple of steps out. I tend to write too many words. But giving it to somebody who knows nothing about what you're writing about just ensures that you are keeping your reader on the right track. Blog post type number 2 is news and current events. If you're one of those people that skims the news each morning to identify maybe industry-specific trends or something that you'll follow, this is particularly important. For example, if you are maybe a real estate agent or a mortgage broker at the moment, obviously, one thing that I think of is that second Tuesday of every month, everyone's talking about interest rates, okay? So that would be something you would write about. You could do a blog post about as this type of post. You can actually set up as a little bit of a tip for you for this one as well, because I actually do this. You can set up Google alerts on specific topics, and every time there is a newsworthy story that's actually actually written on the internet, Google actually bring it to your attention. And you can have it sent to you weekly, you can have it sent to you daily. So that's just a little tip there for you as well. So you want to make sure that with these ones that, I do stress current events, news and current events. So if there are things that are happening within your industry that you need to cure your potential customers or potential customers' fears, uncertainties, and doubts about, then certainly these types of posts can be really helpful as well. So when I think about that example there of the interest rates, is the latest interest rate hike really going to make that much of a difference? That putting that type of spin on it. So you're taking the current news and event, and then you're putting your spin on how you think it's going to affect the industry. So these ones can be really helpful, and it's great because you're not really coming up in with all the content. What's important in these blog posts is that you add your own unique spin. Like I said, have a conversation with the person, make sure it's your wording. Don't just simply regurgitate the news that you see day to day or what comes in. You don't want to be, I guess, a headline aggregator. You want to make sure that you're taking the information that's been released and you're breaking it down or making it easier for people. There are already plenty of websites that actually just share information out, but you want to really have a thoughtful interaction with your reader about the way you feel about that news and current affair. So always remember to relate the news back to your readers. So why does it matter to them? Why are you sharing it? Why does it matter? What effect will it have on their day-to-day lives? And why should they care about that particular news item? Okay, so you can probably think of a lot of examples of newsworthy stories, but those 3 points there, why does it matter? What effect will it have on their day-to-day lives? And why should they care about that particular news item are really important to make sure that you put across in your blog as well. Blog post type number 3 is the controversy. It's no secret that controversy sells, and there's a reason that people love to read the tabloids. And the reporters are always chasing that controversial story, isn't it? Like if there was something bad happens, they are there to do it straight away. If you're smart, you can use controversy to your advantage, but when it comes to blogging, consider writing about controversial subjects that are just within your industry. There's lots of controversy going on in the news, but if it's not relevant to your reader and it's not relevant to you, there's definitely no need to write about it. These types of posts are guaranteed to really get interest from your readers and people that follow you, sharing them on social media or via your email as well, because quite often they're a bit of a stir. So if you see some controversial information that's been released in relation to the industry that you work in, then it's a really great option for you to share it. Now, as I said to you, make sure it is only within your industry. And avoid simply writing about any and all controversial subjects, because you don't want to be a tabloid. Your goal is still to be very informational, educational, and entertaining, but just around the subject of what your business is. You don't want to alienate your readers by blogging about something that's not really relevant. A simple formula that allows you to write about controversial subjects really well is the this versus that formula. I've used this a few times. Some good examples for you here of the this versus that formula would be Mac versus PC, the health benefits of coffee versus tea, keto versus intermittent fasting, MailChimp versus ConvertKit. Now, obviously, they're not very controversial subjects as we stand here today, but if there was some controversial a subject around maybe Mac has a security breach after all these years, then that might be the time that you would write a blog about Mac versus PC if it's within your industry. If it's not, then it's not something that you would write about. You're simply comparing two different popular things, different popular products, or it could even be a way of doing things. I really like the keto versus intermittent fasting one as the example there. When I think of those of you who are in the health industry, that is quite often something that people will ask the question. Now, the great thing about these blogs is, I will say, when I'm out and about and I'm networking, I've written so many blogs now that someone will say to me, oh, actually, I've got this question about social media, or I've got this. I can actually say, oh, you know what? I've actually written a blog about that. Are you happy for me to email the blog off to you? And people are really impressed by that. They go, oh gosh, that'd be great, because I'm really looking for some information on, how I can make it work. So imagine if you were able to see your potential customers, and you were able to say, what seems to be the problem today? And they would say, well, I've got problem A. And you say, okay, that's really interesting. I've actually written a blog about that might help you out. How about we start there and I email you this blog, and we can go from there. And it really cements credibility to your potential clients. They see that you have this big, essentially, library of information. So I always think about the problems, what are the fears, uncertainty, doubts, and problems that my potential clients have, and write blogs about those things. Obviously, for myself, being in digital and social media, it's very easy because there's always some sort of change happening in social media. So it gives me a great opportunity to be able to write something new again, and send it out as relevant information. Blog post type number 4, and let me tell you, we have all seen these blog posts because we love them, and that is the checklist type. We are, as humans, traditionally very forgetful, which is why we use checklists. Checklists help us to remember everything we need to know about a particular subject, and we use checklists for everything from, remembering what to take on vacation or what to do to get a specific project completed. The great thing about checklists is that we know how they work, right? You start from the top, you work your way to the bottom. We check it off. It's, you want to make sure with the checklist that everything is running smoothly and running as it should do, or you're doing things in the right order. And we even use checklists to be able to tick off what we pack when we go on a cruise. Checklist blog posts can be hugely valuable to your readers. You can help them remember everything that they need to know around a specific subject or a given subject. Let's say, I'll pull out an example here. Maybe you're in the photo industry, try to pull something a little bit different out. You could create a checklist blog post for maybe everything that needs to be taken to a photo shoot. Now, there's 2 things that you are doing there. This is one thing that people say, when you write a blog and you're telling everybody what you need to take to a photo shoot, aren't you just giving them all the information? Well, essentially you are. And there will be a percentage of people who want to do it themselves. They just want to find out the information, probably never going to use your services, and they just want to do it themselves. When they get to your blog post with the checklist about everything that they need to take, they might realize, whoa, this is a lot more equipment than I thought I needed to get this job done myself. This person knows exactly what they're talking about. They have all this equipment. So that is where at the bottom of each blog, and I will talk about this a little bit later, your call to action comes into play, because sometimes people get to your blog post and they go, I saw your blog post, had some great information in there, but what I realized was I don't have the expertise or the equipment to get the job done. And so now I'm calling you to see if we can work something out. So don't be worried about people taking the information and go, oh, I'm just going to go and do that myself then, because they were probably never your customer in the first place. Okay, as those types of people are looking to do it themselves. And if they don't find the information from you, they'll find it from someone else. The good thing about you giving them the information is that quite possibly they could talk to somebody else and say, you know what, I found this really great blog post the other day that had all this information in it. And I know you don't want to do it yourself, but maybe you should contact them and see if they can help you out. And it's really interesting when somebody contacts me and says, oh, actually, it was my friend, you emailed them this blog post about this, and they thought that you might be able to help me. So never be fearful about putting information out there. If you're a real estate agent, I can give you another example of that as well. You could create a checklist of things that a person needs to do to get their house ready for sale. And you could include things in that checklist that really will be much easier to be done by a real estate agent. So that way that they are getting all the information. So as this image on the screen here shows you, you want everything to be valuable. So good, helpful, successful, popular, bold, useful, all of those things. They're all good, positive words. To create the perfect checklist, you need to take a common task, or I guess the task that they are wanting to get done, and just break it down into smaller subtasks and put a checkbox in front of it. It really is that simple. but people really like the checklist formats. Blog post number 5 is the listicles. I just love this word, listicle. We all love lists. We said that we just spoke about checklists, and that's why magazines are constantly publishing articles like 10 ways to lose that stubborn belly fat, or 5 ways to be happier. Lists are very quick and easy. It's interesting when I search, and this has actually been proven in eye tracking studies as well, and it's probably in my notes a little bit later to talk about this. But it has been proven that people like odd numbers, so your 3, 5s, your 7s, 9s, rather than your even numbers. There's something a little bit more believable about that from a list number. But it has been proven that if we do a search on Google and there's 3 options that come up, and the bottom option is something that says 5 ways to improve whatever you're searching for or you're looking for, that we will more than likely click on that article. Nice, quick and easy. I don't know a lot about the subject. I just want 5 quick ways to know how to handle this, or what I should do here. So listicles can be really great. They make it easy to break down a bigger subject into smaller and more digestible pieces for the reader. That's the main thing that you're trying to do. Here's some examples of listicles, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. You can see here 27 ways to build an email list, 9 easy ways to generate leads, 7 ways to burn fat and get shredded, 19 ways to overcome the fear of public speaking. Now, I don't know how you guys feel when you read these on the screen, but are you in agreement with that? Does it seem like they're a little bit more believable when they're odd numbers instead of being even numbers? I really like that little bit of research that I read about blogging. And I think that was from a study that was done in 2016. So it's a little bit old, but it's still very relevant today. You don't need to have a lot. It could be 3. Just because you've got 3 ways to burn fat and get shredded and somebody else has got 7 ways doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get more clicks and likes as such, or reads. You would have seen other ones as well. 101 ways, really good. You would have seen that around. It's been around for a long time. 101 ways to build your email list. And yeah, it's been used for a very long time. And being drawn to those odd numbers as well. Now, guys, don't forget, if you have any questions on any of these, don't hesitate to pop it into the chat or pop it into the question and answer feature. I am sort of putting a lot into today's 1-hour session, and I do a lot of talking, but I'm really happy to have the interaction as well. Blog post type number 6 is the case study. Case studies are incredibly valuable to your reader for several reasons. Firstly, they let the reader see what's going on behind the scenes of your business. So readers love being able to be taken behind the scenes and see sort of what's going on, give them a look at how things work in your business. And secondly, they provide valuable lessons regarding how you achieve the success in a particular area. For example, let's say that you as a business tripled your sales in 6 months. And you get to walk your readers through exactly what you did through a case study. You might see a lot of advertising like this. I see a lot of it on social media where they say, we started working with Brian, and Brian is now having a fantastic, he's got a great back. He came to us, we started working with him, and now he's got a fantastic back. So this is the case study. Now, one thing I will say with the case study is, if you don't have a personal case study to write about, because this is where a lot of people new to business struggle with this, you can write about how you've helped one of your customers in an anonymous way. So if there's someone that you've actually helped out, and if you're so new to business that you haven't actually helped anybody out, then the first step for you is maybe offering your services for free in exchange for a testimonial and being able to share their story. So it's amazing how many people will jump on and say, absolutely, I will do that for you. If I can use your services, or you can do that for me for a week or a month or whatever it is, or that one-off service, then I'll happily provide you with a testimonial and you can use it as a case study. So have a look through your customer list, determine which customers would be the best to be able to do this with, and then email them and talk them through how they might be able to help you in creating a blog post about their experience. When writing your case study, try to provide as much concrete and actionable material as possible. You want your readers to be able to take your case study and apply those lessons in their own life, so that they can actually do something with it. But people really love reading these about how people are walked through things, particularly in some industries, health industries, even real estate is a big one. I've seen some really great blogs written about how somebody has simply done a stellar job of selling a house, what they've done and how that has changed the person's life. And so if you think about that, you could definitely find some inspiration there. Blog post type number 7 is the profiles and interviews. Now, profiles and interviews allow your readers to become familiar with important people in your industry, and they also allow readers to learn valuable insights and expert secrets. So what's the difference between a profile and an interview? Good question. In a profile, you're simply highlighting a person without actually interviewing them. Okay, so today I wanted to share some information with you about how Richard Branson became as successful as he is today, or my view on the reason why he is as successful today after what he's done. So this could be really important to establish yourself as, you're up with it, your industry leaders. So if there is particular people in your industry who are really well known, you can branch off their success by doing a little profiling blog about them. But there should always be a reason why you're profiling the person as well. So why do you want your readers to know about this person? Are they going to disrupt your industry, or, what's the reason why? Have they written a series of books that your audience should read? Are they pioneering a new way of doing things? You want to make sure that if you're profiling someone, that you're clear with your audience as to why you're profiling them. And then that way they will have all the information. Now, an interview is obviously very easy. It's a series of questions that you ask directly to the person, and this allows you to get as much more close and personal with them, but it also allows you to tap into their expertise and extract the secrets of their success. Now, to give you a little bit of an example of this one, guys, where this one might come in handy, this is where you can kind of create some relationships with people. Okay, so let me try and think of my own industry. So I'm in social media marketing. And one thing that I don't do in terms of marketing is digital billboard advertising. Okay. So I need to find somebody in digital billboard advertising so that I can write a blog post about it, do a bit of an interview with them. We can talk about digital billboard advertising. I'm still being seen as an expert in my field. We can take your social media posts and turn them into digital advertising, but we're giving them another branch off, and we're really trying to show people that in the field of marketing, we have our finger on the pulse and we know what's going on. So that would be a really good example of doing an interview post. And the person that you're doing it with is more than likely another small business as well. So they're really grateful for the exposure. And it can be a really fun experiment for you to do as well. Now, before you interview somebody, you need to ask yourself, what would your readers want to know? So what are the questions? So think thoughtfully. They don't need to be a lot of questions, just 5 key points. If I knew nothing about digital billboard advertising, what would I want to know? And make sure that you include those in your blog post as well, or in your interviewing questions, those questions that you have in there. So guys, do you have any questions on any of that so far? Remember, if you do, you can pop them into the chat feature or the question and answer tab, and I'll get them answered. But I'm just going to keep pushing on to make sure we get through all of this for you, because we've got some exciting things to release at the end. So blog post type number 8, the expert roundup. Now, an expert roundup is like an interview on steroids, really. It involves asking common questions or a set of questions to a group of experts, and then compiling their answers into a single coherent, compelling blog post. So if you were a social media manager you're in the marketing field. So you might have experts in relation to email marketing, digital billboards, print copy, and then you could ask them a series of questions. And the great thing about these is that it doesn't have to be in person, though it's always really fun when it is. It can also be just over the phone or via email as well. You know, I'm writing a blog. I'm wanting to get your insights into this question. If you're happy to answer, I'm happy to include you on the blog and put a link through to your website. They're always really happy to do that. Here's some examples here. You could ask an email marketing expert about their favorite hack for growing their email list. I can see lots of spelling mistakes in my presentation today. I do apologize for that. You could ask a weight loss expert what exercises they recommend for losing weight quickly. Or you could ask a tax expert or tax accountant what's the #1 overlooked tax deduction is. That's a really important one, isn't it? I mean, there are a particular time of the year, regardless of what business that you're in, you're starting to think about tax, right? So if you were to add in, you know, and this week, guys, on the blog, we had a chat to such and such about tax accounting and needing to get yourself into gear, that could be helpful to a lot of people as well. Now, expert roundups have a much greater chance of going viral than a standard interview, and I'll tell you why. It's normally because you're using more than one expert. And of course, when you contact that expert, you say, we're going to write a blog post about that. And then when you write the blog post and you put it on your website, you share it out to them and say, hey, you know, here's that blog post that I write about. You'll notice that you're mentioned in there with the link back to your website as well. What happens is they want to share it, don't they? Because they want to go, oh, here's a blog post that such and such has written and where we talk about X. So they want to share it. They feel proud about it getting shared. And so it's really important that the more experts you have where you can send these types of things out, the more likely it is to go viral because it just gets shared around a little bit more. Blog post type #9, reviews and comparisons. Now, what's the first thing you do when you're looking at a product, say on Amazon or online? Because if you're like most people, you probably have a look at the reviews, right? We might see the product on Amazon. The first thing you do is go, let's see what people are saying about the product that they buy. We want to see what others thought about it, what the product, you know, whether it actually was up to specs, up to what they said. Reviews are an incredibly important part of the purchase process for somebody that's looking to buy. And by reviewing and comparing products, you can provide a huge value or service to your readers. You can help them make educated decisions regarding the products and the services they're looking to purchase. You can enable them to purchase a product or service that is best for them and help them to avoid making non-beneficial purchases. In a review, you need to discuss the pros and the cons of a single product or service. So you want to make sure that you get all of the information across. Your goal is to provide your readers with a thorough understanding of how the product works, product or service, its advantages and disadvantages, the specs of the product or service, and whether or not you recommend it or not, and the reasons why. I haven't put that on there, but definitely, and the reasons why. Now, this is going to be it's a very subjective blog post, this one, because it really is just about the way you feel, isn't it? It's just about the way you feel about a particular product. But by putting that out there, a product or service, by putting that out there, you are giving valuable information to people as well. Blog post type #10, the resource roundup. There's so many resources that are available on the internet. It can actually be overwhelming to try and find what you're looking for. There are millions of new resources that are being published each day, and finding the best one can seem impossible. And that's why something like a blog post that's a bit of a resource roundup can really help people. There are many resources available, you know, not only across Australia, but across the world. And we have access to them now via the internet. They come up for us straight away. So, for example, you could create a blog post in which you link to the best blog posts, videos, and podcasts related to search engine optimization. what's great about these blog posts, so I'll just go to the next one. You could create a post in which you link to the best keto recipes, link to the best blog posts, podcasts, and videos related to Facebook marketing. Now, what's great about this type of resource roundup blog is that you're not really writing the information. You know, it could be a lot of our clients come to us because they want social media management, but they also ask us about creating their own podcast. So here is a roundup of the best blog posts, podcast and videos, YouTube videos related to creating a podcast that we could find. So these can be really quick when you're looking for a blog post. Think I haven't written one or sent one out to my clients for a while. These resource roundup ones can be really quick and handy to be able to just punch out as well. They get shared a lot because they're quite high in value, or they contain a few different things, but yeah, they can be really, really popular and people do really like to read them. I know from my perspective in the resource roundups that I have done, and an example of one that I've done, I did a resource roundup on CRM systems. So we had been with so many different CRM systems and we tried so many different ones and they're all good for different reasons. So we did a bit of a roundup on that and we sent that out to people saying, you know, we're not the experts in CRM systems, but here's what we found. This is what we ended up choosing. Here's some information on that, etc. And it just really does, it's amazing how many clicks you actually get on those links and how many people go to the website to actually read that. It's very interesting. Blog post type number 11, behind the scenes or a day in the life. People love to know what's going on in your business. This is one of those blog posts that really humanizes you, okay? People want to get to know the humans behind the business. They don't just want to deal with the brand. And they want to know who is the face behind the brand. They want to know the people. So doing a behind the scenes or a day in the life is a great way to let your audience know who you are and show them a little bit of what it is that you do. So you could chronicle each moment of the day. You know, what's your morning routine? What sort of meetings do you have? What strategies do you use to be productive? What interactions with your team or clients or customers looks like? And what do you do to unwind? These types of blog posts, and keeping in mind, there's 17 of these. So if you're going to write one blog post a month, you know, there's going to be 5 or so that you're not going to like anyway. So you might not want people to know about what's going on in your life, but it could be your morning routine in terms of your business. You know, how you keep yourself. People like to work with people who are motivated. You know, what's your morning routine like? How do you work in your business? Blog post type number 12, the data-backed post. Now, blog posts that are heavily data-driven and backed by research are a really great way to position yourself as an expert because it shows that you know what you're talking about. And people love it when they can click through to some really reputable websites. If you're seeking to establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry, you should dedicate a significant amount of time to writing some data-backed blog posts. They aren't necessarily easy to write because you do have to do a little bit of research, but they do work very well. So you can do the research yourself. This takes a little bit of time and effort. Obviously, when it comes to certain subjects, you've got to get online and have a little look. To give you an example, if you were an accountant and maybe the ATO had released some new information, you need to be all over that. You can certainly do the research yourself. However, a little bit of a tip for you that you might like to consider as well is that you can actually rely on the research of others to back up your primary points. So rather than you having to do so much research. But certainly a data-backed post will actually get you a lot of credibility in terms of people seeing you as an expert. You know, click here to refer to the latest ATO table on blah, blah, blah. So if you are particularly in an industry where you are governed, Real estate is another one that's governed but not governed, but certainly in the rental space they are. So if there is information that is changing there, you could share it out and link it back to sites like the REIQ, as an example, Real Estate Institute of Queensland, or whichever state you are in. Blog post type number 13 is the inspirational stories. Now, people absolutely love inspirational stories, and it's why millions of people visit websites each day, because they love to be able to read it. We see these ones on social media all the time. Okay, so they get a celebrity and you'll see something that says, Julia Roberts didn't know what she was doing until she did this, or changed her life when she did this. Oh, sucker me in straight away. I'm there reading it. We love to feel inspired to do better, to pay it forward, to learn something. And we love stories of people who have overcome odds and tails and really accomplished great things. I really like this picture because it's kind of like we like that, seeing that person get to the top of the mountain. So if you have an inspirational story, consider turning it into a blog post. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about your industry as such, but it could be, if you are an accountant, how you became an accountant. It could be an inspirational story for someone as well. So that's a really good opportunity. So consider what is the point of your inspirational post and how it will help achieve your business objectives. So want to make sure that we're always keeping in the back of our mind, why are we writing this? What is this for? What is the reader going to get out of it? And that way you can make sure you're always getting your call to actions as well. Blog post type number 14. I love this one. Frequently asked questions. So there's probably certain questions that come up again and again with your customers or potential customers. Think about if somebody's ringing to use your product or service for the first time, and think about the top 5 questions that always get asked, and you could write 5 blog posts that you could write right there. So instead of answering the same questions over and over, you could create a frequently asked question blog post in which you give an in-depth definitive answers on each one. So a lot of people put frequently asked questions on their website, but they don't think about doing it as a blog post, and it does work really well. So in creating your frequently asked questions blog post, try to be thorough and answer as many objections on that question as you could have. Okay, so if the question is, why do I need a social media manager? That's the question. The objections to having a social media manager are the cost. It costs too much. Providing content might be another one. So you want to cover those points. Think about the objections that someone would have to that service and answer it in that blog post. The whole idea is, in writing these type of blog posts, you're really creating a bit of a resource that you can actually share out. So remember I said earlier that you meet somebody and they say, oh, I've thought about doing social media marketing, but I don't really know where to start. Hello, that's a great blog post. Where to start with social media when you don't know where to start. So that could be, you say, oh, I've actually written a blog post on that. You're happy for me to send out the information? Oh, of course I am. Bang, nice and easy. So you're creating a bit of a resource library that is going to cement you as an expert in your field. If you don't feel like creating one long frequently asked questions document, you could write a series of blog posts in which you answer some commonly asked questions. And when you're thinking about the structure of your blog post for these ones, just think about the where, when, how, and why. So if you can answer all the who, how is another one as well. Just think about those things and enter them all into the blog post so you're getting as much information out there to the reader as possible. Blog post type number 15. We're nearly there, guys. We're only 2 away from our 17, and we're 10 minutes out from the finish of today's webinar. Got a lot to share with you still. Top takeaways. So top takeaway posts, a blog post which you write about your top takeaways from something. It could be a book, could be a podcast, could be a conference, could be a movie, or it could be another item. If you're an accountant and there was a movie made about an accountant, maybe you just like to take your top takeaways from that. And you could make this one kind of funny. It could be kind of different, you know. The typical accountant wears a suit every day to work, and you don't. You know, what's the whole idea? The whole idea of a blog post of top takeaways doesn't always have to be so serious. It can be just about the reader getting to know you a little bit more. The more they can relate to you, the more likely they are to do business with you. So these types of blog posts allow you to both recommend resources, but also show them, you know, exactly why those things are recommended as well. You're providing real value, and this is a real resource when you're doing these types of blog posts. First, you're introducing them to an outstanding product or service that can truly benefit them, but it's also doing it in a bit of a fun way as well. Blog post type number 16, the beginner's guides. Oh my goodness, these are so good. They're basically how-to posts, but they're geared specifically towards beginners. Okay, remember I said earlier, I want you to think about what it was to know nothing about what you're trying to tell somebody about and write from that space. Some examples of this type of post would include, and we've all seen these, a beginner's guide to lead generation, a newbie's guide to running a marathon, a beginner's guide to email marketing, and a beginner's guide to social media. So they're just some examples. So think about the reason why somebody would be searching for your product or service and create a beginner's guide on it. Where do I start? You know, sometimes with social media marketing as an example, and I know I'm staying on that subject because I'm trying to swim in my lane. I know a lot about it. The very first question you need to ask yourself about social media marketing is, do I have the time to dedicate to doing it by myself? And am I an expert in the field? And if the answer to both of those questions is no, then maybe you just need to engage the services of somebody who does. So, and it could very well be that that is exactly what the beginner's guide is about. If you feel like you've got enough time and enough expertise to actually do social media yourself, then move on to this step. Beginner's guides, when done really well, can be an incredibly valuable resource. And these ones get shared. I share these ones, my beginner's guides, out all the time. Whenever I meet somebody and they ask what it is that I do, if I mention social media marketing or email marketing, oh, I've been wanting to do email marketing, I'm just not sure where to even start. I've actually written a blog on that. Would you like me to send it to you? Again, cementing myself as an expert, giving me a reason to follow up. Did you get that email? Did you have a chance to read the blog? Establishing yourself as an expert in your field is a really important step. So now that we've been through all of those, was that 17? Oh my goodness, that has gone so fast. What now? Yeah, that's great, Kerrie. You've actually given me some ideas of what to write about. I've also given you some ideas about the structure of how the blog should be written, you know, whether it's a listicle or whether it's an interview type of blog. The number one thing that's going to help you out when it comes to writing a blog is a planning sheet. Okay, so if you're going to sit down and you're going to write yourself a blog, or you're deciding I'm going to write myself a blog, people just think you sit down with a computer and you just start typing it all just comes together. It doesn't work that well. You've got to sit down and you've got to have a bit of a plan. I can see a couple of questions popping up here. Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for the interaction. I really appreciate it. What's the best platform to write your blogs on if you don't want to use WordPress? I'm not a WordPress user. Thanks for asking the question, Emma. Here's my feelings on WordPress. WordPress did a fantastic job of advertising to everybody that they were the best. Are they actually better than anybody else? I'm not actually convinced. I don't find WordPress user-friendly at all. And there are plenty of other platforms that you can actually create a blog on that are just as good when it comes to SEO and are much more user-friendly. You can create a free website on Wix and Weebly as well. They both do free blogging websites. So you can start out there until you're feeling comfortable. And then you might decide that you want to upgrade that website to have a few more features and take away the little advertising that goes along the bottom. But certainly if you've already got a website for your business, you should be having a blog on that website. Okay, so there's no need for you to reinvent the wheel. You can put your blog definitely on that website. So that's all good. I'm just going to click done. So I kind of done that. But yes, my whole feeling on WordPress is they did a fantastic job at advertising and making everybody feel like that's a platform that everybody has to be on. It's the only one that's the best. It's not, that's not necessarily the case, no. But getting back to a checklist, when it comes to writing a blog post, having an actual plan to go with is the most crucial part. So what is that plan? Coming to this webinar today, I'm actually going to give you that plan. So straight after the webinar today, I'm going to be emailing this to you. So this is my blog plan. This is what I do. I grab this and I sit down and I answer all of these questions. So who is the audience? Who's the audience? What am I talking about? Now I've got here title. What's the title of the blog post? And you'll notice in brackets there, I've got answer the public. There is a website that you can go to that's called answerthepublic.com. And it's where you can type in one word, or two words. I could go there and type in social media and it will show me all of the questions that people are asking online about social media. They're great blog post titles. Call to action. What do you want your reader to do at the end? You know, I see a lot of businesses making the same mistake and just having the, you know, blah, blah, blah. This is what we do and this is what we are. Like, have a call to action. You know, if you think that you would like to take action on this today, then click here, send us an email, give us a phone call, do something, have a call to action. And then you'll notice here it's got first sentence. Makes your audience want to keep reading, is relatable and related to their pain point. Paragraph, first paragraph. What is the number one point that you want to get across? Jot down some thoughts and it will all come together in the end. The second paragraph, what's the most important thing to get across and why is that important to them? Third paragraph, what's the most important thing and is there steps to implement? If you have 3 points, here's what I'll tell you about this little trick as well. So I can see a couple of little things coming up here as well. Is when you write a blog post, if you write a blog post and you've got 3 points, you've got 3 paragraphs and you've got 3 points, right? When it comes to being able to promote that blog post, let's say you wanted to promote it via social media, you've actually got 3 different points that you can promote. Okay, so if the subject is about, you know, why you need a social media manager and point number 1 is it saves you time, then when you share that blog post out, if you want to learn how to save time on your social media, then read our latest blog post. You know, if point number 2 is that you don't need to be a graphic artist, you know, if you want to learn how to be able to have a social media do all your graphic design for you at an affordable price, then read our blog post. So if you're having 3 points, it's actually giving you 3 reasons to be able to share it out. Closing paragraph and a call to action. So always make sure that you have that. So I've got some useful tools written in there for you as well. So answerthepublic.com will help you find what people are looking for on Google. Pexels.com, you can get copyright-free images on there to be able to put inside your blog as well. Keyword tool for doing a bit of keyword research. And I haven't touched on keyword research today because it's a little bit more SEO-y. But if you want to learn about some keyword research, then I'd recommend that. Of course, canva.com, obviously an Australian product, very proud to be able to say that it's Australian. But if you're wanting to design your own graphics for your blog post, then that would be a great place to start. It has a free version, so you don't have to pay for it. Now, the other thing that I'm going to share with you is my blog post layout structure. Okay, so a lot of people ask, okay, now I've got the words, I've done the plan and I've got the words. How do I put it onto my website? So I've given you everything here, okay? So I've given you the post title. Obviously, you want to make sure you have your social icons on there as well, because if someone ends up on your website and they go, oh, this person actually sounds like they know what they're talking about, you want to give them somewhere they can go that's a common, well-known kind of place, Facebook, Instagram, somewhere where they feel comfortable and they can see other stuff that you're putting up as well. So this is a website suitable image. So a website suitable image is the image that normally pops up when you share it. You know, you share a website link and it comes up with a little image in the description underneath. So those images are normally 2000 by 1000 pixels. If you are doing a podcast on this subject as well, then you would embed your podcast onto that blog post. If you are doing a YouTube video, and I say if, I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying if you are, then you would embed your YouTube video. Then you would have your body copy. So that's the main part of the actual article. If you are advertising on Pinterest, you might also like to include a Pinterest-sized image. So that way you can share that image onto Pinterest and get people to the website as well. And then we've got your conclusion and call to action, which is there as well. And then at the bottom of every blog post, there should always be a banner image. And that could be advertising the latest special. It could be, you know, whatever you want it to be. But you should always have that at the bottom. It could be the next, you know, if you enjoyed this blog article on this, then maybe you might like to read the article on that to get them to another blog post as well. This whole entire thing, somebody showed me this myself a few years ago, like probably 2013 or 14, and this changed my life because this just made it so much easier. So you'll notice on the blog post layout structure as well, I've got around the outside, I've actually got little tips and tricks for you as well. So this is going to be really helpful to you to be able to sit down and get that blog post written, but then also know how to pop it onto your website and what it's going to look like. And the way that people will respond to it as well. So guys, that's probably the major part of today's webinar. I know we've got a couple of minutes over, but I just have a couple more things to go through in relation to Business Station and what's happening with the Digital Solutions Program. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them into the chat for me. I appreciate all the comments that have been coming through. Thank you very much. But obviously, the Digital Solutions Program, as I said, is coming to an end at the end of March. So if you haven't got in, we're only a couple of days out now. If you haven't got in your latest one-on-one sessions, then you need to possibly contact Business Station and get those booked in so you don't miss out. Because once the 1st of April comes, unfortunately, that is it. And the program will not be moving forward. So it's been a fantastic program to have business mentorship digitally for just $44. And obviously, if you're a small business owner, have an ABN that's registered in Western Australia, Queensland or Northern Territory, and you are running a business to make profit, you employ fewer than 20 staff, you're classed as a small business and someone who is eligible for this program for the next couple of days. So guys, that is the end of my blogging for beginners and obviously my final webinar for Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program. I want to say thank you very much for everybody who registered for this last webinar. I know there was a lot of you and quite a few of you here today. So hopefully I have answered all of your questions, taken some fears and uncertainties out of the blogging process for you. And I'll send through those tools to you in the next couple of hours. And you will be able to then go through and use the plan to actually write a blog post yourself. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for the feedback. And go forth and grow your business with blogging. Have a great afternoon.